Welcome to the Plant-Centered and Thriving Podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Kitchens. Welcome to the show, Plant-Centered Listener. My name is Ashley.
And I'm Katie.
And we're together, and we're doing this intro.
Together forever. Ashley's like, no.
Oh, absolutely. Of course. Always. Welcome to the show. We are so appreciative of you being here. This is episode 2 of our 5-part series in interviewing people from the VeganStrong Plant Built team. So we had Danny just a few days ago, Katie, who was one of the founders of Plant Built. And then we have Giacomo today, who is the other founder. And both of them obviously have very unique stories. So I'm excited to present Giacomo's unique story as well.
And they're married.
So at this point, Katie, we are about 2 weeks out. 2 weeks from today, I'll be leaving to go to Atlantic City, New Jersey to compete at Mr. America in the CrossFit division.
I can't wait for you guys to hear about this Plant Built team. All these athletes get together showing off how you can have big old muscles and just eat plants. I think it's amazing.
Yes, it is. I'm really excited. So there's a big expo. I've never been, but there's a big expo there as well. And apparently we have a booth where we'll be able to talk with other people who have questions maybe about being vegan and being in our respective sports. So I'm really excited. I always love interacting and answering questions with people whenever I can because there's so many myths to bust around being vegan and being a BA.
Well, we were just talking about just the myths within the bodybuilding. Danny talks about it from our last episode. If you haven't listened to it, it's awesome. She talks about just the myths within the last 15 years of bodybuilding, just in and of itself. And then you throw in plant-based eating and there's all kinds of crazy changes that have happened. So it's been an interesting 15 years in the health industry, and wellness industries.
Yep, it sure has. It's always ever changing and ever evolving, it seems like. So I'm excited for you to listen to Giacomo. So like I said, he's also one of the founders of this Plant Built team that so many of us get to be a part of. And I know we're all very, very grateful. At least I can speak for myself. So grateful to be a part of this community. Giacomo has been vegan for over 15 years, and he's been involved with the fitness industry for more than 20 years in many, many different areas. He specializes in coaching others, and then as an athlete himself, Giacomo is actively competing in bodybuilding, and he's won several awards and holds a champion title in bodybuilding and powerlifting. I know.
But I love that, if I had a coach, I would want a coach that's been there, done that, gone through it, and can understand where I'm coming from. So I bet that makes him really good at being a coach.
Yep. So together with his wife, Danny, who we heard from a few days ago, he co-founded Vegan Proteins, an online coaching business, which they both touched on, right? Because Danny touched on it and Giacomo touches on it today. They also co-founded Plant Built, the largest and most diverse team of strength-based athletes in the world.
Including this one right here.
Giacomo uses strength-based sports and travels to various mainstream fitness expos and vegan festivals across the country with the VeganStrong team to raise awareness for animal rights and welfare. They're a powerhouse, I'll tell you what.
I can just picture them in this big trade show, just spreading the word and just, surrounded by all these whey proteins and stuff like that. I mean, you have to have some guts to be able to do that, to be able to stand in a room full of fitness people that probably have a very specific view on what an athlete should eat or how they should fuel their body. So
I really appreciated Giacomo and I's conversation today, Katie, and I know you appreciate it as well. He's just very transparent about his struggles and how this journey has not been easy. It might look easy from the outside looking in, but he's really open about his relationship with food, about his struggle with body dysmorphia. So I really appreciated that. I don't think we hear enough about it. So it was nice to kind of get his perspective on what things have been like for him personally in his own personal journey.
We have the best guests. They're just laying it all out there, being vulnerable, being brave. They inspire me.
Yes, agreed. So without further ado, shall we welcome Giacomo to the show?
Yes, please.
All right. Here we go.
Welcome to the show, Giacomo. I'm so excited you're here.
Thanks for having me. This is a pleasure. I've been actually really looking forward to this, and I haven't been looking forward to an interview in a while. I'm a little burnt out, but for some reason I was feeling it this morning. I was like, yes.
Okay, good.
It's time.
Sweet. Well, good. Well, I'm excited. I'm really curious because I mean, I've been following you and kind of the Plant Built team for a while, but I'm curious to learn more specifically about your journey and how you got into veganism to begin with.
Well, I quickly learned as I became fitter and I wanted to become healthier that I could not help other people and I could not change other people. So I decided to lead by example. I was dating someone, their mom had a heart attack. The doctors were like, just go back home and don't stress out. Leave the extra cup in the sink and just try to eat less sugar and you'll be fine. And if something happens again and you feel these weird things in your arms, it's okay. It may be a heart attack, it may not. And I was like, this is crazy talk. And I wanted to do something. And I was already into learning how to take complete control of my body for competitive bodybuilding, like the year prior. So I went to my local co-op and I was like, can you please give me some information? There's got to be a solution. And when I tried to preach at people or help people, they would not hear it. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to learn on my own. And to make a long story short, even though the book that I was reading wasn't really rooted in evidence, it was more holistic. It gave me the ideas that I needed to change my lifestyle and to eat a plant-based diet. And those roads led me to find more community and find a way to adapt to not only a plant-based diet, adopt, I don't know, a vegan lifestyle. And that's how it was rooted for me as far as my actual change.
Yeah, which was a big change. So it sounds like the competitive bodybuilding or the weightlifting came first.
It did. And that started in high school. I wanted girls to notice me. I wanted my peers to stop literally hitting me and bullying me. I wanted to have confidence and I wanted to excel at sports, which is something that as a child, before I was 10 years old, I wanted it, but I was too scared. I didn't want to get hit by a baseball. I didn't feel comfortable being competitive. So I saw myself out of it. Then I tried on my own, my friends on the street, because growing up in Brooklyn, that's what you do. You just play sports against the wall or whatever, or literally using the sewer cap in the street as a net for tennis practice or whatever. That led me to wanting to become an athlete. That led me to want to become more confident. And when my music teacher was a bodybuilder and I was like super inspired, I'm like, wow, look at you. Like, he took me under his wing, me and two other people, when the gym that was built out for our high school became a thing. I was like, this is really special. I'm going to do something with this. And I have been with my life so far. I intend on doing it long term. So that's how I got started with sports and my reasons for bodybuilding specifically.
Wow. And so it sounds like the mentor that you had, your music teacher, was a big part into sort of helping shape your enthusiasm for the sport.
He definitely was. And then the sport led to a lot of windy roads and a lot of challenges with, as you know, because you're a coach, that you face as an adult. You don't learn how to feed yourself. You don't learn how to eat as a child. You just don't. And then you're shot out like a cannon into the real world. And all the body image issues that you got from people you used to hang out with all the time or your family, that stuff starts rearing its ugly head and it can get real dark.
Yeah.
And also your relationship with food, you realize like, wow, there's a lot of work that I need to do here. And I'm a coach and I've been coaching people for 15 years and I still have to do work on myself to this day. Like that stuff doesn't just happen magically. So it's been a really interesting journey.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. And it sounds like it. And I think that's a good point too, that coaches still need coaches too. You're coaching other people, but I'm sure every once in a while you have someone who is continuing to mentor you or pour into you, or you're taking the time and energy to pour into yourself because you can't really give to other people if you're burnt out or just running on empty all the time.
Correct. And as you're putting the work in on yourself, it's really hard with the imposter syndrome kind of thing. And you have to have that voice and that authority and focus on other people's lives that you're coaching. And then you wind up not giving information that you want to be giving in your earlier years. And it's like really hard to learn as a coach how to help others. That imposter syndrome thing is real.
Yeah.
And you owe no one an explanation for the work that you have to do on yourself. And like you said, coaches do need coaches. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for that understanding being a coach and for the opportunity to try to become healthier myself. I've dealt with all kinds of issues from anorexia to low confidence to unhealthy eating habits in general, whether it's stress related, whether it's emotional, whether it's both. Finding out I've dealt with orthorexic like behavior when I've decided, well, I'm going to eat healthy all the time. yeah, but I want to eat comfortable food all the time. And that in between place with that, it's like, you can't put a finger on it, but you know it. Like getting back there and checking and rechecking myself over the years, it's not easy. And then helping others with that is not easy too, because sometimes you wind up feeling so much empathy for your clients' challenges that it can almost affect you, even though it's has nothing to do with your own personal path. So it's been a pretty interesting 15 years working as a coach.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your transparency and being vulnerable in that space because it's something that's not talked about very often. I feel like it's kind of like hidden under the rug, and it's like, oh, look, I'm the perfect image of health because this is what my body looks like. But deep down, there are a lot of other things going on.
Yes, absolutely, for sure. And it's hard when you're not on the other side yet and you're putting in the work. And it's hard when you want to make sure people see you a certain way to have those conversations. Because when you're working with others, you're literally framing the conversations around them.
Yeah.
So, but this was an opportunity. And I was looking a little into how you coach people, like, you know what, let's get into this conversation. Let's try to peel back some more layers, because I've touched upon it with other interviews with other podcasters and whatnot. But it's worth, like you said, this is stuff that's swept under the rug and not talked
Yeah.
about. And why should there be so much shame around it?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I know the listener will really appreciate that too, because we try to be open about our relationship with food and how just because someone looks a certain way doesn't mean they're at the epitome of health or the opposite of the epitome of health. And so I think it's really important to touch on that. And I think too, I'm kind of curious, how did you, maybe in some of those earlier years or even now, like what do you do to kind of continue to work through some of those struggles?
Well, I have a therapist, so talk therapy helps. I journal. I also try to be more comfortable sitting with emotions and try to, instead of trying to understand where they come from, I focus on habit-based, behavioral-based, and routine work on myself. And I realize that like routines need to change as life throws things at me. And I ask for different things out of life, whether it's another competition season, whether it's a family crisis or trauma that has come my way, whether I ask to help or I'm there as a part of it, all kinds of things. Like life is tricky, right? And it can be so easy to wallow in your own misery or to be confused about whatever you can't do to take control of your decisions when it comes to food. When it comes to body image, oh gosh, that's a whole different beast. There are so many things that I could do I don't even know how I scratch the surface on that
Yeah.
conversation, but accepting what you're capable of and accepting what you're not capable of, I think is priority number one when it comes to what you want to look like, when it comes to how strong you can be, when it comes to your limitations, whether it's work stress, whether it's environmental stress from or prioritization with your relationships in life, whether it is what competition takes away from you in terms of what you look like most of the time and how you have to recover from that. There's a lot of reasons why there is constant work to do on yourself to gain a healthy relationship with your body and with food, with how you eat.
Yeah. Did you kind of, when you first started, did you realize that that was going to be a big priority, or was this something that you kind of learned later in life?
I ascribed to the idea and I did not know what kind of work I was signing myself up for.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Danny was very open about that as well, which I appreciated. So that's two very transparent conversations. And just like there are some struggles associated with this. And I think oftentimes we look at things like social media and it looks like, oh, wow, everything's going well. There's like this picture perfect world that you're living in. But like you said, there's so many things that are thrown at you throughout your lifetime that aren't showcased on social media that you're still dealing with kind of behind the scenes.
It's the idea of that pressure to be somebody when you're out there literally being you are the person who people come to. You are the face of certain things, of a whole movement. Like that's a lot of pressure. So that doesn't come without a cost in terms of what you feel like you need to look like, what kinds of things you do to look a certain way. And when you don't feel like you look the part, boy, does that hurt. That's the kind of body image stuff that doesn't come from childhood. That's the kind of stuff that comes with being a public facing person. And that can be tricky.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure that can be, and I'm sure there's tricky conversations to have, not just with yourself, but maybe with other people. Because, like you said, some people say things, and it's like that hurts a little bit. So we'll figure out how to navigate that situation. I mean, Giacomo, kind of going back to Plant Built in general, and you starting it in 2012 with Danny, did you expect it to blow up to what it is today?
No, not at all. There were 9 of us doing bodybuilding only. And out of nowhere, our Facebook page went from like 1, or for us 10 to like 4,000 almost overnight, as we were doing it
Wow.
in real time. And Strongest Hearts came to cover us, and they were super excited about it. The following year, we got all sorts of mainstream vegan news coverage that came to us. They all wanted to interview us after it happened.
Well, so you touched on this just a little bit, but why Mr. America? Why was it that you chose that event out of all the events that kind of go on in the US?
Well, we went to the Naturally Fit Games in Texas, and they grew a little too fast, and they couldn't keep doing it. They were the only sports festival that we were aware of that had multiple sports that were growing into multiple sports, and it was centered on natural athletes. All the other big expos, like the Arnold or Mr. Olympia or the Fit Expos or FitCons, there's no drug testing. And unfortunately, the bodybuilding industry has a monopoly on these sports festivals. And I hate to say it, but these sports festivals really are centered around bodybuilding, even though there are other sports where athletes of the same caliber show up, whether it's powerlifting or CrossFit or whatever. And there was nowhere else left to compete. Fast forward to the last, I want to say 5 years or so, Mr. America had a resurgence. It was one of the first events over 100 years ago that came to be, but it just didn't have a money trail that followed it. It didn't have icons that were larger than life that followed it. So the idea just got crushed. It didn't grow like these other big events did. Although Mark Torriello, I don't know how he got his hands on it, but he decided to bring it back and run it the past 5 or so years. And now it's a thing again.
Yeah, yeah. And people all over the world, I mean, from several countries are coming to compete this year, October 6th or October 8th at Mr. America on the VeganStrong plant build team. Kind of paint us a picture maybe of what it's like since you've been to these events for so long when everyone gets together and just the energy that I cannot, I can't wait and I can't even fathom what it's like.
I don't have words for them. It's the kind of energy where it really doesn't matter what you say. It's pure adrenaline. It's all the emotion. It's exactly where you want to be, and you're just getting completely lost in it. That's what the energy feels like, and it feels like a dream come true because you have 40-ish highly competitive athletes in 5 different sports gathering together en masse with strength in numbers, winning world records, defending titles, winning new titles, achieving top placings, competing at the top of their game for something far bigger than themselves, for something far bigger than the collective and the organization and the team, and doing it in a selfless way to put a statement out there once and for all that plants have all the protein you need. You can do this compassionately. You can do this healthfully. You don't have to compromise your morals or ethics or health to do something and to do it well.
Yeah.
And that's what the VeganStrong Plant Built team aims to set out to do, fearlessly and courageously, with big bold letters that say VeganStrong team, loud and proud.
Yeah, I can't imagine. It's got to be such a beautiful thing. Giacomo, I'm going to tell you like a little side story. I was telling someone that I was competing at Mr. America with like a VeganStrong team, and they're like, "Oh, they have a vegan division at Mr. America," and I was like, "Oh no, we're competing against everyone, but we just happen to be a vegan team that's there." And so it was neat to kind of explain that. But you had mentioned earlier about, people have questions, and of course everyone's in like the same colored shirt. They have, the logo on. You said kind of like that you're navigating different questions over the years because I'm sure people just can't help but want to come up to you and be like, "What the heck is going on?" or "What is this team?" What are some common questions that you might get at some of these events or at Mr. America in particular from other spectators or even other athletes?
Well, I'd like to lead with, once you have won, that's all people really care about in sports. So that's why we focus on competition. The results speak for themselves. It's far less cognitive bias or dissonance. They're open. They want to know what you're doing. It's
Yeah.
more than just your secret sauce. Like, you can only will yourself to get results for so long. You got to be doing something right as far as your health is concerned and whatnot. Protein, unfortunately, I cannot believe this question still gets asked, but getting in the right amount of protein, what kind of foods do you eat? Those are really the 2 biggest questions, honestly.
Yeah.
Believe it
They,
or not, those questions come up time and time again.
Yep. And protein always seems to be, I mean, continues to be a big issue, especially when you're in the athletic space and people are seeing you win and you're like, "Wait a sec, they just eat plants. How are they getting all the protein that they need?" And it's like, well, plants have all the protein they need. It's that simple, but obviously there's more complexity to it, once you are on the journey yourself.
Food is a very personal thing. You grew up eating a certain way, you're enjoying what you're enjoying, you find comfort in it. The reality of it, Ashley, is that it is in fact harder to eat healthfully in the real world. And as a vegan, in some ways, unfortunately, we just don't live in the world that we should live in, where there are plant-based choices all over the place, including ones that are athlete friendly.
Yeah.
And that's true. But I'll tell you what, if you want to be healthy, you can't eat like the standard American eats. You have to eat differently. So why would you feel bad about that? Why would you say this is harder and I don't want to do it because? Why would you say family's giving me a hard time or social outings make it impossible? Well, yes, that's all well and good and true, but like, what kind of lifestyle do you want to live? Do you really want to be healthy? Do you really want to perform at the top of your game? Well, you won't create these excuses for yourself. Yes, it's harder to eat healthfully. Yes, it's even harder to eat a plant-based diet, not like it used to be, but even that way, it's difficult these days. But again, if you want to make the best decisions possible for your health, you do that confidently and you make those decisions without worrying about how others are going to project whatever on you or ask questions or how you may feel uncomfortable with whatever you have access to at a restaurant or at a gala or traveling or whatever you can't find at a specific grocery store.
Yeah.
You find ways to without feeling like you are isolating yourself.
Yeah.
And in some ways, maybe you are the outlier because unfortunately, not everyone says they want to be healthy, but not everyone wants to do what it takes.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's such a good point because it really is an intentional choice. I remember hearing this from older mentors in my life saying, as they aged, they knew they had kind of a fork in the road that they were at with their health. It's like they could either really purposely, try to eat healthy, prioritize movement, or they could just kind of let themselves go and sit on the couch in the evenings and kind of do whatever they wanted. And they were very intentional about this is the life that we want to live, even if they are the outliers in their family or in their social group, because this was very important to them because they knew there were going to be so many benefits long term, hopefully, as long as nothing catastrophic happens, if this was sort of the path that they went down.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, how did things evolve for you, kind of going back to when you transitioned from eating maybe the standard American diet to a vegan one as you were lifting, bodybuilding, powerlifting? How did things evolve for you in your nutrition?
Well, in the beginning, the options were really challenging back then. I started making the switch when I was like 20 to 24 years old. And I was already doing extreme things to compete and learning about food that way. So I wouldn't say that I had a graceful transition to a plant-based diet. I think it was really sloppy and weird. And if I was to look at my former self and recommend that, I would expect to hear all the criticisms be like, that dude's crazy. Like, don't listen to a word he says. He's out of his mind. So, but if I were to look for excuses, it was a lot harder to find access to food back in the day. You had some crunchy folks and some people trying to create more options for vegans and plant-based foods, but it really wasn't like it was now. You had tempeh, you had seitan, you had like a couple of old school options like hot dogs and stuff like that. I don't really think there was whole lot of social proof around veganism back then like there is now, put it that
Yeah.
way.
Yep.
So it was challenging to make those switches. I wound up seeking community with potlucks and veg festivals and community through Robert Sheik's website, through veganbodybuilding.com. That's how it started for me. The social support, the people that are in my life still personally and professionally these days. This is how it all came to be for us.
Wow, that's so beautiful. And I feel like it's also a good reminder for you listening, if you're struggling with just feeling isolated or alone on your journey, whether it's vegan, plant-based journey, weightlifting journey, sometimes you have to go seek out those like-minded people or that community that you really want to be a part of to feel sort of welcome and just be around, quote, your people. There really is nothing like it, feeling welcomed and accepted into a group that supports you without, with all your flaws that come with it.
Exactly. And there's so much community out there. There's so many different classes that are out there that people do to share whatever they've learned over the years and to build community. There's so much to seek out with that. I'm sure you have that with what you do. And we do that over here as well at Vegan Proteins.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm curious to learn, Danny touched on it a little bit. I'm curious to learn more about your coaching program and what you do for other people or with other people.
Oh yeah, sure, totally. And I'm looking forward, hopefully you'll come on our podcast as well and we can learn more about your coaching because I'm definitely very interested.
Yeah, of course.
We have all kinds of options. Our favorite thing to do is to work with people one-on-one to help them change their lives, to give them what they want while also giving them what they need. Their bodies need to change for them to buy into the process, and they have to use tools to get their body to change that people will tell them they don't need to, like track, or not just focus on eating intuitively, like actually set yourself up with a set meal plan, for example, or do things that you can't see yourself doing in 10 years when it comes to how you train and when it comes to how you eat. But those things are necessary in the beginning. But we also teach people. We teach people that this isn't what you have, this isn't how to do it forever. You can't gain control of your lifestyle. You can figure out how to do this on your own. We focus on autonomous based coaching. We focus on getting people results and telling them what they need to hear, even when they don't want to hear it. We do it in a supportive environment because it is their process. And if they are going back to the plan or the programming or what you said, if they still hear your voice in their ears a year after they were done working with you, you haven't done your job working with them. At the end, they should be able to figure this out and know what they need to say to themselves and what they need to do and how they need to behave on their own. They should know how to change their eating habits to reach any goal on their own. They should know how to program training for themselves on their own. In my professional opinion, it really does take a bare minimum of 6 months to preferably upwards of 18 to 24 to start to get to that point, no matter where you're coming from, when you're looking to hire a coach and you're looking to be in that vulnerable place where someone else is literally seeing your blind spots for you and working with you and figuring that out with you. You just have to give that trust. If you're not willing to do that, then you're not coachable. And even if you are coachable, it takes a while to unlearn how just how coachable you need to be to work with somebody. But typically we're like, hey, look, give this 12 weeks. What is your goal? You want to lose 5 pounds? You want to go up 50 pounds on this particular lift? You want your body to look this way? We can do that. However, there is a roadmap to being able to do this on your own and get lasting long-term results, how you feel, your health, and what you're able to do.
I love that. And I think that's a really important piece as well, that every good coach knows that who they're working with, they're not working with them for forever. The idea is that eventually they're going to spread their wings and fly out on their own and be incredible at what they have learned and put it into action for the rest of their lives, if that's what they want to do.
Exactly.
Yeah. So with the VeganStrong Plant Built team, we're also doing a fundraiser right now. So I wanted to make sure that we touched on that. I mean, Giacomo, we have some incredible sponsors, by the way. I mean, some of the things I've been sent, I'm like, this is so tasty. I want to eat it forever.
I'm really grateful for the companies that are standing behind what we do. From Plant Fusion, they were the first to start making plant-based protein powder. And it's just as good to this day. The formula just continues to get better. And I absolutely love them. And they've backed us in the past. So I am so happy that they want to keep working with us. That's our protein powder sponsor. Ultima got its root. Well, Ultima, you can find it everywhere. What you may not know about that company is that it got its roots in the vegan community. And I know because that's what Skeet told me when they started to gain an interest in working with us. They're like, the vegan community, that was our come up. You can find us anywhere. It's a family name now. It's that big. However, they got their roots in the vegan community. So like, you know what? We want to support you. We want to back what you're doing. And they are. You have a brand new company that decided to bring Bambara nut to the world, even though it's being farmed for quite some time and they're planting it everywhere now. It's a legume that is high in protein and it grows in poor climate. It regenerates the soil when you plant it, and it's delicious. And they make noodles out of it and milk out of it. So we have a milk sponsor in them, a vegan company with a vegan competition team with a milk sponsor, which is really, really cool in my opinion. And those noodles are just the bomb. I love them. And then we also have Healthy Truth, and their stuff is just like super high quality. They're like super finicky about their ingredients. And they started working with us and they gave us some protein, some bars, some nutrition bars. Now they're giving us these superfood energy pack of nuts, badass vegan nuts. And those are really exciting. And then finally, we have a meat sponsor. We have Unisoy Jerky, and they were the first company. They brought tofu to the West Coast, and they were the first company to start making vegan jerky. That's our meat sponsor. You heard our milk sponsor with What If Foods. You can get all of these things from all of our sponsors. Plus, you can get crazy cool swag. Like we have Our team designs something new every year. We all just get in together and brainstorm. And we have, I think, a rhinoceros and a sports bra. Is that right?
It's amazing. I mean, I was talking about with Danny. I mean, he was like, whoever designed this was a genius. It's so cool.
Whatever it is, you have like these really cool, jacked up animals representing. There's like 3 or 4 animals. I don't remember what the design looks like exactly, but basically you get the design that's available this year only to donors on the front. And then the back it says VeganStrong, and you get a shirt and a hoodie with this whole package with all this wonderful stuff from our sponsors and some other cool stuff from us. And you get to support, you get to back something that you believe in, which gives us a chance to do what we do. And you need to represent after the fact with the swag. You need to try some really cool things from our sponsors. And if you believe in what we're doing, if it's something you feel compelled to support, please, by all means, consider donating, because that gives us the opportunity to reach more people, and it gives us the opportunity to get the funding we need to continue to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have that link listed in the show notes if you want to learn more about donating or check out the swag or watch the video, because the video is amazing as well. Well, Giacomo, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate you. And I'm so grateful that you and Danny started this, because I wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be here if not. So I cannot wait to officially meet you in a few weeks in Atlantic City at Mr. America, and obviously the whole team as well. But thank you again just for coming on and sharing your journey, being transparent, and everything else. I just appreciate you.
So looking forward to meeting you, and thank you so much for having me on the show. I appreciate you.
Yep, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for tuning in today. Again, we're going to keep releasing these episodes as we gear up for Mr. America in a few weeks. We'll catch you on the next episode.
Until next time, keep thriving.